there, and welcome back for our next very important vocab word. We're looking at the first term for APUSH Period 3, the 7 Years' War, also known as the French and Indian War. Here's your quick definition: a global conflict between Great Britain and France from 1756 to 1763 over territory, power, and control of trade. So what we're really going to highlight here is the historical context, the causes, and the effects. So it's important to note that the 7 Years' War, the French and Indian War, was the fourth in a series of wars during the 17th and 18th century that primarily impacted Great Britain, France, and Spain. These were in part fought over increasing territory and trading rights, and the ones that occurred in North America had large impacts on the American Indians as we see alliances shift as those territories also change. So, causes of war. What we see happening is the Ohio River Valley is a big opportunity for economic gain. We see the fur trade being very lucrative there, and both the French and the British would like to control this area. And so the British are expanding into that area. The French are creating forts to kind of have more control of the area. And that's really the spark that begins the French and Indian War. Now, there were some religious differences that are also at play here, but it's primarily economic motives. Now, because this is AP US history, we are just focusing on causes and effects. But there is one thing during the war that you should be aware of, and that's the Albany Plan of Union. So this is a political cartoon created by Benjamin Franklin. And what you can see are that that it's a snake that's been divided into 8 parts, and there's letters around each part. And most students are able to come up with the idea that these are the colonies. So the New England colonies are grouped together. Delaware is part of Pennsylvania at this time. And so the message here is join or die. Now, for students who don't pay attention to chronology, a lot of students will believe that this cartoon means that the colonies need to join together against the British in the American Revolution, but this is not. The Albany Plan of Union was asking for the colonies to unite with Britain against France. And this plan would have created a Grand Council that would have made laws, would have recruited troops, and collected taxes to help pay for the defense of the colonies. But the colonies do not want this. They do not. The plan is never enacted. But it's a precursor to the Congresses that existed during the Revolutionary War. Okay, so the war happens. The British win. What are the effects? There's 4 major effects that you should be aware of. First is the Treaty of Paris, 1763, also known as the Peace of Paris. And what you can see in the map is there is large territorial shifts. So France is essentially now gone from North America, and that land is divided between Britain and Spain. And Spain does cede Florida to the United States. Or I'm sorry, not to the United States, to Britain. We have significant debt for the British Empire as a result of all 4 wars, but especially the 7 Years' War. And because of that significant debt, there's a shift in the British colonial policies. There's an end to salutary neglect in which they weren't really monitoring their mercantilist policies. They weren't enforcing the Navigation Acts, but now they need to implement taxation. They're going to keep the British military more present in North America. And all of these things are going to fuel discontent among the colonists. And then the last major effect that you need to be aware of is increased conflict with American Indians. So as British colonists begin to move or further move out west, they encroach on American Indian lands, and this fuels conflict, specifically Pontiac's Rebellion, which leads the British to pass what's called the Proclamation Line of 1763, which is going to prohibit colonists from moving past the line. This is going to anger many colonists, and they will defy the order. So what's the significance here? It ends French territorial claims. We see expanded British territory. There's these shifts in the relationship. Really, period 3 is about how does the relationship between the colonists and Britain change? And the French and Indian War, the 7 Years' War, marks the beginning of that change in the relationship. And then, of course, the increased conflict with American Indians is very important to note as well. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you need more on this, check out my longer video on the French and Indian War. There's a much bigger, larger explanation to help you get this down. But I hope this was helpful for you. And if so, please like and subscribe.